How y'all doing? I'm the Watchman, and this is part three of the secrets of the three angels' message revealed. The secrets of the three angels' message revealed. Now, I know in the second part, I kind of talked a little fast, and that's only because I was trying to fit so much in a little amount of time. And I don't like to talk fast or to go fast because I could either skip over something, I could forget to say something, and most of all, you I can go so fast where you don't get a full understanding of what I'm trying to show. And so, if you're a little vague or a little foggy on certain points because of how fast I was going, just ask me, let me know, and I'll clarify. But I'm gonna do a little recap before we pick up where we left off, and that is, I know that some might was wondering why we went over Revelation 12. I believe it's so important. There are certain key points of the Bible that if you don't know these certain key issues, or that if you do learn these certain key issues, you'll start to understand the Bible so much clearer. And one of those main key issues is the downfall, the devil's downfall. How did he fall from grace? If we understand the war in heaven and how everything started, then the Bible makes so much sense. It starts to make so much more sense. And and also you have to remember the devil and the angels were in heaven. They were in heaven. They could go and they could talk to Jesus. They could walk with him, and they still fail. And they still fail. So whatever spirit crept up in the devil and was created then, we need to know, because if that same spirit can cause the devil's downfall, then beloved, it's definitely he's definitely using it to cause our downfall. And that spirit is the spirit of Babylon. That spirit is the spirit of Babylon. He took his spirit, and that's where Babylon comes from. It comes from that same spirit that was formed in him, you know, the same spirit of self-righteousness that formed in him during this whole ordeal in heaven is the same spirit what we call Babylon. And the devil realized that if 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 he fell because of these certain issues and certain things, that and here he is in grace, here he is in heaven, and here he is, we can't even imagine how heaven is. But if it can cause his downfall, then there is no shadow of a doubt that it is going to cause our downfall and the downfall of millions and billions in it, and it has already. But that's why we went over Revelation 12 first, to show the actual spirit and what Babylon is and where Babylon comes from. And like we saw in the recap, like I said in the recap right now, what we saw was that the devil has been attacking God's church from day one. From day one. The minute he rebelled in heaven, he rebelled against God's law, and he's been attacking the church. So Babylon, which is the devil's spirit, the spirit that crept up in him of sin. So Babylon is a spirit that is against God's church and against his law. And we definitely have to keep that in mind in trying to understand what Babylon really is. That Babylon is built upon that it is an enemy. It is an enemy of God's law, his throne, and his church. And that is what Babylon is. And that is what Babylon is. So we see that in Revelation 12, that we're dealing with an ancient hate. And that you have the devil's trinity. You have the devil, the beast, and beast in Bible prophecy means kingdom. And we're going to talk more about that when we go over the third angel's message. But you have the beast, which is the devil's kingdom, and the spirit that's inside of the beast, the spirit that's inside this kingdom, is Babylon. Is Babylon. You could say the spirit or the mind state or the worship style is Babylon. But let's get right into it. One of the things that we went over in part two that I want to reiterate is that Babylon was the first kingdom upon the earth. It was the first earthly kingdom. And not only was it the first earthly kingdom, but it was the first apostate kingdom from God's truth. Let me say that again. It was the first apostate kingdom of God's truth. So that's why in Revelation 17, go to Revelation 17. In Revelation 17, verse 5, it says, "And upon her forehead was a name written," the forehead dealing with the mind, "Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth." That's why God calls her the mother of harlots, because every apostate religion, apostate, pagan, occult, fake religion, as you might say, every religion that came about after Babylon came out of Babylon, is a piece of Babylon. Think about it. Think about how a mother is, a mother and children. How many times you see a little baby or a little girl, a little boy, and be like, he looks just like his mom. Now look at that as far as these apostate religions. God is saying they look just like their mother, or they might have the characteristics of their mother, or there's some genes that they got from their mother, or they are pieces of their mother. So all of these apostate religions, no matter how apostate they are or how different they might seem, they still come from Babylon and have pieces of her inside of them. No matter if they claim to be Christian, they claim to follow the word, they could still have pieces of Babylon inside of them. But if you don't know what Babylon is, can you catch the pieces? And that's what we're doing today. And that's what we're doing now. And I want you, in Revelation 17:5, you see God says the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. It doesn't say just the first harlot. He didn't say this is Babylon the Great. She's the first harlot on the earth. You know why he didn't say she's the first harlot? Because if he said she's the first harlot, that means the other ones, the other religions and religions that go against God and have all these other different gods, or even say that they're worshiping God, but they're really not. All these other religions, if he'd have just said she's the first harlot of the earth, that means that they're separate, they're doing their own thing. But now I want to reiterate, he says she's the mother of them. She's the mother. She's the mother. So to understand them more clearly, look at the parent. Go to the parent. It's like look at the DNA. Go to the DNA. That's a better way to put it. Look at the DNA. Go to the DNA. So that's what we're doing now. We're picking apart the DNA. Picking apart the DNA. All right. One of the things we saw, the first thing I noticed with Babylon, I believe God showed me, when you look at the story of Daniel, like I stated at the end of part 2, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were castrated. When Babylon came and besieged Jerusalem, and they took all the princes of Jerusalem and all the chosen young men of Jerusalem, when they took them captive, they castrated them. And this is very important. And whenever I say Daniel, I'm talking about Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego also. I'm talking about all 4 of them. I'm just going to say Daniel. That way I ain't got to keep saying all of the names every time I refer to them. But like I said at the end of 2, my respect level for them went up extra high, because they didn't use that as an excuse to turn their back on God. And this was a reality for them every day of their life, that they wouldn't be able to have families. They wouldn't be able to enjoy the certain comforts that married people enjoy, because of being castrated. You never once see a scripture of Daniel complaining to God about it. But anyway, so what that showed me, that Babylon has a habit of, one of the habits that Babylon does is it takes away gender. Takes away gender. Look at today, y'all. Babylon is trying to take away gender. is trying to, you look at, you know, and I won't get into how other people feel about it. I'm just gonna state how I feel about it and what the Bible says. But you get into like women's ordination, you know, it isn't biblical, but the devil's trying to take away gender. He's trying to take the roles. You know, you take away gender and you take away the roles of the home. You know, one gender isn't more important than the other. And I definitely mean that. You know, the man isn't more important than the woman, and vice versa. The woman isn't more important than the man. You know, they're both equal and on equal planes, but we're not equal in gender. You know, if we have to realize that, you know, men is natural for us, and we have certain characteristics that if utilized and cultivated the right way, you know, uh, we can be a blessing to our homes and our community. And the same thing with women. There's certain characteristics and things about women that if cultivated the right way, they can be a blessing to their home and their community. But what is happening today is, with the taking away of gender, you have and what they try, even through TV, cartoons, and movies, they're trying to train our youth and train us that uh, there are no gender lines. Women can do what men can do, men can do what women can do. And the result of that is you have men who are too feminine and you have women who are too manly. And then you have homes that are messed up because nobody understands their roles. You know, you have like, to describe it like a body, you have eyes trying to be lips and lips trying to be a nose. You know, and that's why homes are messed up, and we wonder why homes are messed up. You know, a lip can't be a nose. Lips can't smell like a nose can smell. You know, but lips are just important to the body. You know, a nose can't be an eye. You know, an eye can't smell and a nose can't see, but they are just equally important. They're just equally important. So just because they're different doesn't mean that they're not equally important. And that's what we've done with gender. We say, oh, it's wrong to cultivate a young lady just to be a young lady. Or it's wrong to cultivate a young boy just to be a young boy. And that's what a trait of Babylon. As they did with Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the first thing they did was they castrated them. They cut their gender off. They take away gender. That is a trait of Babylon. The trait of Babylon. Okay. Now, second, there were many other Jews in Babylon that were taken captive. But the only reason we hear about Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, okay, I'm going to just say Daniel, but I'm talking about all four of them. The only reason why we hear about them is because the others conformed to Babylon. I'm going to stress that again. The others conformed to Babylon. I'm telling you, as a child growing up, for the longest, I used to only think that it was only Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were the only ones that came to Babylon. You know, I didn't realize until I got older and started reading that there were many other Jews that went to Babylon that were taken captive. You know, but Daniel and his friends were the only ones who stayed true to God and God's ways. Because let's see how they remain separate. We all know that Daniel and the others remained separate because they didn't eat Babylon's meat and didn't drink Babylon's drink. Before I get deep on that, let's actually look at that for what it is, because there is a key in Babylon to refrain from the meats and the drinks. Now, there are certain meats that God says you can eat, but he also says that you have to deal with the consequences. If you choose to eat them, you have to live with the consequences. Don't say, oh Lord, why did I get heart disease? Or why did I get diabetes? Well, you ate hamburgers. You ate the things that give that stuff. You should have counted on it. You know what I mean? But Daniel refrained from eating the meat of Babylon and from drinking the drink of Babylon. And it just goes deeper. It goes deeper than just the physical meat and the literal drink. What God is basically saying is Daniel and his friends in Babylon did not partake, did not digest the same appetites as the Babylonians. They didn't watch the same TV shows. I'm taking it a little deeper for us, relating it to us, because we're in modern day Babylon now. And of course, we should watch what we eat and watch what we drink. Definitely. We shouldn't be drinking all these sodas with high fructose corn syrup. All it does is shut down your kidneys, and eating all these meats with tapeworms and parasites in them. But now let's look at it also deeper. When we look at modern day Babylon, Daniel didn't, and his friends didn't. When it says digesting, when it says eating, eating means taking into your body, taking into your system, you know. And you look at that with Babylon, he didn't watch the same TV shows, watch the same movies as everybody. He, if it wasn't benefiting the kingdom, Daniel didn't do it. If it was the kingdom of God, Daniel didn't do it. He didn't have the same appetites. He wasn't just working, spend all the time working just to get a vehicle and a big home. He didn't have the same appetite as the Babylonians. He didn't have the same wants and desires as the Babylonians. And I stress the TV and the music. He didn't listen to the same thing, because even with music, you're taking in. God would describe that as eating, because you're taking it in. You're taking it in, and your mind is feasting on it. He didn't listen to the same music. He didn't watch the same shows. He didn't do those certain things. So what made the first thing that separated Daniel and his friends was his appetite, his appetites. And I say it plural because they didn't take in the same things that the other Babylonians take in. He didn't digest the same things that the other Babylonians digested. And when you look at it, what he did eat was vegetables and water. It says pulse, which means vegetables and water. So basically, he only took in that which would help his temple, only that which was beneficiary to him glorifying God. To him glorifying God. That's all he focused on, was glorifying God, was his main goal. And this is even after being castrated. Even after being castrated, his mind was still on just pleasing God and doing the will of God. And doing the will of God. And it is so deep that even just from the simple fact of watching, not having the same appetites, if you look at it today, even in the church, it has gotten so bad that if you can tell somebody, I tell people all the time, I teach the word. I'm a layman, I preach, and I love having Bible lectures online. Even after saying all this, if I still don't have the same desires and wants, the same appetites as everyone else in the world, people look at me like I'm funny. And you know why? Because they've met too many people who say they love the Lord but have the same appetites. That's like the other Jews that were in Babylon with Daniel now. They were Jews. They were in the house of Israel. But they had the same appetites as the Babylonians. They were not really no different from the Babylonians. They were not really no different. And it goes with the aim of Babylon. Now remember, this is why we talked about this ancient hate that the devil has for God's law and his church. Because his aim is to be worshipped. The devil's aim is to be worshipped. His aim is to make you into his image. We were created in the image of God. Sin took us in a deformity from that image. But through Christ, we can start a walk back towards the image of God, which we call sanctification. So through Christ, we can start conforming back to the image of God. Babylon's aim and goal is to conform us to the image of the devil, to the image of Satan. That's why with the music, that's why the first thing Daniel had to put a block up to is his appetites, what he's taking in. What does God say? By beholding, we become changed. I told some young people in my church one time. They said, Josh, they come to me, and they said, Josh, the service is a little long. We need a little more. We need to entertain us a little more. And I told them, I said, I sat him down. I said, you know, it's hard for God to compete with the Xbox. And I said, y'all be honest with me. And I love the youth from my church. They're always they're honest with me. I said, how long do you spend reading your Bible? Say every day. Give me a time. And they were honest, you know. And they actually said 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I said, okay. So if you're only reading your Bible, you're used to only reading your Bible for 5 minutes. Anything spiritual. I said, well, tell me anything spiritual dealing with God, and I estimate how long. I'll say the longest time a day was 15 minutes, and that's the longest. So I said, understand this. We're creatures of habit. We train our bodies. Our bodies are trained in what we do. If you've only trained your body to focus on God for 15 minutes a day, you're not going to be able to listen to a sermon that goes over 15 minutes without your mind going everywhere, whichever way. And that is with us grown-ups. If you've trained your body to only spend a little bit of time with God, you're only going to be able to, only a little bit of Him is going to show out of you. Let me say it that way. If 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 you're not beholding more of God, whatever you behold the more of, that's the image you're going to conform to. And if Babylon takes up most of your time, then guess whose image you're going to conform to? The image of Babylon. We have to remember, the aim of Babylon was to erase from the children of Israel's mind any traces of the living God. And their heritage, they tried, Babylon's aim to Daniel and all the other Jews was to erase their heritage and any trace of the living God as being His children and chosen, and make them into Babylonians and into their image. That's why the king distinctly gave the order, feed them what we eat and let them drink what we drink. Because first, what the Babylonians was smart, and like the devil, what he also realized is that to change us, he has to change our appetites, change our wants, change our desires, change what we behold. But Daniel put the block up. So we see the Babylon attacks the gender. They will attack the gender and take away all gender. Then they will also, and we see that their aim in everything that they're doing is trying to make us into their image. The devil is trying to make us into his image, to conform into his likeness, to take us even further away, from the likeness of God, to take us even further away from the likeness of God. And honestly, if you look at it, all this entertainment and everything that's out here is slowly strips us of any traces, is trying to strip us of any traces of God inside of us, And He wants us to forget that we are His children. Now, in Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the kingdoms that will rule the earth, Babylon was the head. And I actually have a picture of this. It ain't a picture I drew up. I know y'all used to me drawing my pictures. I love my little artwork. But I actually have an actual picture this time. An actual picture this time. Let me see. Let's see here. Alright. Now, for those who don't know, this is the statue of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And it has all the kingdoms. You have Babylon, Medo-Persia, you have Greece, you have Rome, and you have the 10 toes of iron and clay, which I like to call the United Kingdoms. I mean the United Nations. Alright, but anyway. You see, Babylon was the head. And it is gold. Gold is the most precious material out of all these materials. You have iron, bronze, silver, and gold. Gold is the most precious and valuable out of all these materials. So what was God basically telling us? What is the most valuable kingdom out of all the kingdoms that was run on the earth? It was Babylon. It's Babylon. But even deeper than that, even deeper than that, could it be the reason why God set it up in a form of a body, a human body? Because God could have described the kingdoms in any kind of way, shape, or form He wanted to. But could it be that He had Babylon as the head? Because I want to ask y'all a question: can your arms make your legs do stuff? You know, can your fingers dictate what your toes do? You know, if I move this finger, can the membranes in my finger make my toe go back and forth? Or can my toes make my nose go up like this? No. See, what point I'm getting at is what makes what controls your body and its functions? The head, your brain. Out of all, now these is the kingdoms that will rule the earth until Christ came back. What's the head? Who's the brain? Babylon. So could it be that God was saying that even though different kingdoms would arise, their mind state would still be a Babylonian mind state? I like during our Bible study tonight, we're studying the great controversy of the church, and I brought this point up in the church, and my mom said, she brought up the veins. You know, what's flowing through the body's veins? You know, mind. Who tells it when to pump? Who controls the body? Babylon. Babylon. So could it be that even though Medo Persia came up, it still had a Babylonian mind state? Even though Greece was ruling right here, still had a Babylonian mind state. Even though Rome was in power, still had the spirit, the mind state of Babylon. The mind state of Babylon. Could that be another reason why God said the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth? Sometimes the beast is just referred to as Babylon, period. You know, God just refers to the beast, which is the Roman Catholic Church. He just refers to it as Babylon. Why? Because what's the mind state? What's the devil's spirit? What the great whore, which is Babylon, that ancient hate. And I keep reminding that it's an ancient hate for the church and God's law. But we see how deep Babylon is. Babylon is. That Babylon was the actual mind state of all the kingdoms that followed it. So when Nebuchadnezzar, remember on the plain of Shinar, or was it the plains of Shinar, when Nebuchadnezzar built the image, and only Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow down to the image? How did Nebuchadnezzar have the image? He made the image in all gold. And it didn't hit me till tonight in the study that, wow, if God is really saying that this image, that no matter what kingdom came up, they would still have the mind of Babylon, that Babylon is still the head of this body of kingdoms, then basically Nebuchadnezzar was right. Then the whole body is basically gold. The whole body is basically gold. And just like the plains of Shinar, what did Nebuchadnezzar say do once the music started playing? He wanted them to bow down to the image. Bow down to the image. Babylon wants you to worship its image. Wants you to worship its image. And we're going to get into that even more, because everywhere you see, we just talk about, oh, the mark of the beast, mark of the beast, mark of the beast, mark of the beast. But people forget about the words that's right every time the mark of the beast is mentioned in Revelations. Go through 13 and just skim through Revelation where it says mark of the beast. Every single place you see it, it'll say, and who worships the image. Every place you see where it says mark of the beast, it says, and who worships the image. It'll say who receives the mark, or who has the mark, and who worships the image. But the image is rarely spoken of. You know, everybody just talk about mark of the beast, mark of the beast, mark of the beast. The devil would love it. He don't mind you talk about the mark of the beast as long as you worship in the image. You can talk about the mark of the beast and stay away from a so-called computer chip, or say, like we know that, the mark of the beast, or I worship on Saturday, I keep the Sabbath, I'm not falling to the mark. You can do all those things in the world, but if you're worshiping the image, you know, you can go to church on Sabbath, on Saturday, but if you're listening to the music, if you're watching the shows, if your character, if your image is that of the world, if your image is that of Babylon, what good have? What good have? You're really wasting time. And it's sad. I had everything I'm telling you, I had to check it myself. Now, the only way Babylon could find fault in God's faithful, when we look about the story of Babylon, because to understand Babylon, you have to go and study the originals. The only way Babylon could find fault in God's faithful, as we know of Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, well, like with Daniel in this time, was to institute a law that would interfere with their worshiping of God. They instituted a law that would interfere with their worshiping of God, because they couldn't find nothing with Daniel. He was found blameless. So one trait of Babylon will be that they would try and I'm talking about when the Persians had taken power, but it was still the city of Babylon. We're still in Babylon, but the Persians had taken power, and they were mad that the children of Israel, with the Daniel, Shadrach, had these high up positions, and they came to the Persian king. They said, institute this law that people can only pray to you for a month, because they knew Daniel prayed faithfully to God on a regular basis. So one trait of Babylon, it will be to institute a law that interferes with our worshiping of God. Laws will be put in place. There are already blue laws on our books to keep Sunday as a law. They just haven't they just haven't activated them. They are on the books. Google blue laws, the Sunday blue laws. They are already on the books. All they have to do is activate them, beloved. This is a trait of Babylon, instituting laws to dictate worship. Remember, they have the characteristic. Babylon is the spirit of the devil. It is the devil's spirit. And he has the characteristic of, he will force worship, and he will force worship and force you to serve him. And that is different from God. God gives you the choice. God lets you make the choice of what you want to do. Now, Revelation 14:8. Go to Revelation 14:8. It says at the beginning, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Now, it says it twice. I personally believe that the reason why Babylon says it twice, I brought this point up, well, I kind of skimmed around it earlier. But if you go to Revelation 17, look at Revelation 17:2. It says, we're talking about the great whore. Well, go to the end of Revelation 17, verse 1. We're going to go start at the end of verse 1. It says, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And waters means peoples, multitudes, and tongues and nations. And we saw in part 2 the reason why she does, because at the Tower of Babel, all God did was confound the language. Remember, they worshiped Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. All he did was confound the language. So when everybody split up and went around the world, everybody was still worshiping those same three gods. They just gave them different names. That's it. Just gave them different names. But anyway, Revelation 17:1. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Now that's big. If most of the time when you're committing fornication, let's just say, and God calls her in verse 5, the mother of harlots, the mother of harlots. So to become a mom, she has to have children. Well, we have right here in verse 2 that she's committing fornication. So And then God calls her a mother, so she had daughters. She had daughters, beloved. So in the second angel's message, Revelation 14, verse 8, where it says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. I believe that the first time it's talk about the mother is fallen. Babylon, the mother is fallen. The spirit. The mother is fallen. And also the second time where it says is fallen, is her daughters is fallen also. Her daughters is fallen also. And I want to explain this from the Reformation. The Reformation is so key. And I will take a couple minutes to explain this. Now, the Reformation was the split from the Catholic Church during the 1260 days, during the 1260 years. It was the split when like Martin Luther and a lot of reformers broke away from the Catholic Church. Now, the devil didn't mind breaking away too much as long as they took bits and pieces with it. As long as they kept little pieces of her DNA inside. Let me explain it like this. Let me find something I can scribble on. I want to explain it like this. Hope y'all can see this. It's the Catholic Church. Is that too light? Let's try a black pen. Let's try a black pen. Okay, this is the Catholic Church. This group of people break away from them. They break away. But let's say they keep the habit of worshiping on Sunday, the day that she instituted. The day she instituted back in the Tower of Babel and through the Catholic Church, because they were pagan worshipers when Constantine became converted. So let's say they keep sun worship. They broke away from them though because of persecution and they couldn't read the Bible. They broke away, but they kept the habit of worshiping the sun, worshiping on Sunday. Then you have this group of people. You have Baptists. Let's say these are Baptists that broke away. Then you have Presbyterian Church broke away from the Catholic Church. Catholic Church is the Antichrist. They're evil. But they kept the habit of worshiping the sun, worshiping on Sunday. You have the Lutherans. They broke away, but they kept the habit of worshiping the sun on Sunday. You have the Methodists. They broke away, but they kept the habit of worshiping the sun on Sunday. You have Jehovah's Witnesses. You have Mormons. Now you see why. Even though they broke away, they still have pieces of her DNA. They still take pieces of her. They never really broke away. So could it be that's why God calls her mother? Because she had daughters. Because she had daughters. And because they take pieces of her, because they take pieces of her DNA, it's still her. It's still her. And what is not told to the world, the reason why the Reformation lost, check this out, y'all. The reason why the Reformation lost was at the Council of Trent. It had been going on for like, 2 years, I believe. I could be wrong. But the Reformation had been going on 2 years. And the reformers was about to win. They were about to win. Even had people in the Catholic churches saying, man, maybe they are right, the church, maybe we are wrong in what we're doing. And the Archbishop Riggio, it had to be the devil whisper to him and say, look, this is how you're going to get the Protestants. This is how you can win. You know how they lost? You know how the Protestants lost the Reformation? At the Council of Trent, and I'm repeating this so you'll Google it. It's because of the Sabbath. Archbishop Riggio, he said, y'all claim to go by the scriptures. Now, this is what he said. He said, y'all claim to go by the scriptures, but you keep the Sabbath that we instituted. The Catholic Church doesn't hide the fact, y'all. Sunday is the day that they instituted. This is the Catholic Catechism. that I bought, the Converts Catholic Catechism, the Catholic Doctrine, they do not hide the fact that they're the ones who changed Sabbath to Sunday. And Archbishop Riggio said, he told the reformers at the country, he said, y'all claim to be solo scriptura, only scriptures and scriptures only. He said, that's what you claim while you worship on the day that we instituted. He said, really, you're not solo scriptura. He said, if you were solo scriptura, you would worship on Saturday. And they had nothing, they couldn't say nothing. And they lost. They lost on the grounds of the Sabbath. They lost on the grounds of the Sabbath. And you know what's so sad? I was telling somebody, you know what's so sad? Did the Protestant churches who was worshiping on Sunday, did they change and say, you know what? He's right. We need to start worshiping on Saturday, the Sabbath. No. They stayed worshiping on Sunday. Why? Must be in their DNA. Just like their mom. Can't help but be just like their mom. Could be why God calls the mother of fathers. And I'm putting it in that analogy. And everything I say is not at the people. I'm talking about the system. For it is our commission to call them out of Babylon. A lot of the people who are in this system don't know the truth. It is up to us to show them the truth. A lot of people don't know that the Reformation lost on the fact of the Sabbath. A lot of people don't know that Archbishop Riggio said after 2 years of them debating and the Catholic Church was about to lose, said, hold on, y'all aren't solo scriptura at all because y'all follow our day of worship. And instead of the Protestant churches saying, you know what, you're right, we need to change our day of worship, they kept worshiping on Sunday anyway. Wow, right? Right? But anyway, let's look at the last warning. The warning about Babylon is so great that not only did God talk about it in Revelation 17, and I stress you to read Revelation 17, but another angel outside the three angels comes down in Revelation 18 and gives the last warning ever to mankind. And Revelation 18 is the last warning given to man before the destruction of the world and Jesus comes again. And what's the last warning? Let's read it. Revelation 18, and we're going to read I'll just start to read. It says, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen. It's fallen. See how it always says it twice. One for Babylon, the second time for her children. Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Check this next part. For two nations, no, for all nations. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. He says, come out of her. Come out of her. We have to study and know these things so we can help call others out, and so we can get out ourselves, so we can really look and see the wicked spirit that is surrounding us and dictating everything we do, from the music to the movies to the food, the video games, things we seem as harmless. Beloved, if it takes your time, if it takes the majority of your time, if it takes any amount more time than you spend with God, then beloved, you're conforming to the image of Babylon. I said this question, I have to throw this in there. I wonder why, when the New Jerusalem comes down out of heaven and the wicked are on the earth, and the devil tries to make one final assault to overthrow the New Jerusalem, the new heaven. Here the dead have been, the wicked have been dead 1,000 years, and they rise and they see that they're lost. They see the New Jerusalem, the new heaven, and all the righteous are inside. And the devil riles them up one last time to try and overthrow the New Jerusalem, the new heaven. And they actually try, get in their minds that, hey, yeah, we're many, we outnumbered, and we can actually take the new heaven. I wonder, why would they even listen to the devil? Here they've been dead 1,000 years. They see that their God is finally he's about to destroy them. They're about to be thrown in the lake of fire and be destroyed forever. Why would they even listen to the devil and think that they can overthrow heaven? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. You know why they would listen to the devil? But because before they died, they were used to listening to him and following him. Before they died, they were used to following the devil, listening to him, only because they had conformed to his image. They had become like him. So when they rise again after the 1,000 years of the millennium, when they rise again, it's in their characters to listen to their leader. It's already built into their characters. So beloved, watch your appetites. Change your appetites. For many of us are in Babylon. Because we go to church, because we might pay tithe, doesn't mean that you're still not in Babylon. There were many other Jews in Babylon, but only 4, we were told, did not bow. All the other ones bowed to the image. All the other ones bowed to the image. Let's read. I want to check out Revelation 18. Look at Revelation 18, 23 and 24. It says, "And the light of a candle," now this is when Babylon is destroyed. And it says, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth." Remember, why was there the blood of prophets and saints found? Because she's an ancient hate against God's church and his people. But anyway, I wanted you to see where it says at the end of verse 23, "For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." And I got this from Ivor Myers. If you want to hear a great sermon on this, just go on YouTube, go on YouTube, put in "Escape from the Black Hole." It's a sermon by Ivor Myers. Escape from the Black Hole. But anyway, this word sorceries in Greek means pharmakeia. Pharmakeia is where we get our word pharmaceuticals. It's the root word of pharmaceuticals and pharmacy. It means to medicate the mind. To medicate the mind. And you see, God is saying that Babylon used sorceries to deceive the whole world. To deceive the whole world. But love, you know how many things medicate the mind? TV medicates the mind. Music medicates the mind. Of course, drugs medicate the mind. But emotions, heavy emotions that aren't being controlled, can medicate the mind. There are so many things that can medicate anything that meditates the mind. All these things, there's so many things that can meditate the mind. And just cloud your mind and keep your mind off of what needs to be in there. Because once uh, uh, meditate the mind. If you have a lot of things, and Babylon means confusion, if you have all these things flowing in your mind, different things, it is easy for you to be confused. You lose sight of who you are. You can lose. It's easier for you to lose sight of who you are and forget your heritage. And you could actually forget how valuable your heritage is. See, Babylon, like I said, Babylon wants you to conform to her image. Because once you forget your heritage or how valuable your heritage is, you can do the sin of Esau and you can sell your birthright over your appetite. See how that coincides with Babylon? He sold his birthright for a bowl of soup because he was hungry. He fed his appetites. Over his appetite, he sold his birthright. Beloved, be careful that you don't sell your birthright over a bowl of soup, over crumbs. There's nothing on this earth worth holding on to. Nothing worth holding on to. Don't sell your birthright. Don't give up your heritage as being a child of God over crumbs. Living 70 years, that's crumbs compared to eternity. And remember that word pharmakeia, to medicate or to cloud the mind. Let me say it that way because I'm not sure if it's to medicate the mind or to meditate the mind. I'm saying meditate the mind, to medicate the mind. I will put it in the comment at the bottom of this. I'm going to look it up right when I get done recording this. But anyway, it's to keep your mind clouded. That's what sorceries mean. Anything that clouds your mind, that takes up space in your mind. How many things does that? Are you spending more time clouding your mind than you are spending with God? Beloved, if you are, your image is changing to what you behold. You know, when Jesus says those people came to him, they said, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out demons? These are Christians. These are Christians. They say, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out devils and demons in your name? Didn't we go feed the poor in your name? But he says, depart from me, ye workers of iniquity, which means lawlessness. Depart from me, for I never knew you. Why didn't he know him? He couldn't recognize them, for they bore the image of Satan. They didn't bear his image. They didn't bear the image of God. They bore the image of Satan. So even though they were doing all these things for the Lord, and, you know, doing all these work for the Lord, going to church every week, they were still knee deep in Babylon. They still bore the image of the enemy. Beloved, come out of Babylon. And when you come out of Babylon, then you'll be able to see clear how to call your friends and family out of Babylon. Out of Babylon. You have a blessed day.